There's a Chinese story. You guys will know it as Red Cliff, or the Chinese will pronounce it as 赤壁. In this story, amidst the chaos of the battle, one general, instead of jumping in to fight, he decided to study his opponents and then strike at the right time. This reminds me of a bank. This reminds me of a bank that amidst the digital disruption age decided to wait, study his opponents, and then strike with a mighty blow, with a mighty app, an app that is right by you. Good evening, ladies and good morning, judges, ladies and gentlemen. Today, my team, Bucks Consulting, will propose to you 3 strategies which we believe would help UOB secure its dominance in Asia by capitalizing on the digital banking trend. So what do we know about UOB? Well, we know that it is a bank that prides itself in its core values and its customer commitments right by you. So what we know also is that the core business is in group retail, group wholesale, and global markets and investment management. We know that the bank has a head office in Singapore and has a strong presence in Asia.
UOB has been going from strength to strength for the past 35 years with a 10.68% CAGR. Now, its main competitors are OCBC as well as DBS. Now, with its core competencies as well as its rooted values, UOB has gone far.
So what do we know about the banking industry? Well, we know specifically for Singapore, bulk of the revenue comes from 2 areas, interest and non-interest income. And for Singapore, banks, bulk of their revenue comes from interest income.
Now, zooming in on the interest income, we can see that UOB has a NIM superior to that of DBS as well as OCBC. How then can it maintain its position or advance further? Well, there are 2 ways. First and foremost, it can choose to increase its interest rates. However, in this competitive banking industry in Singapore, that would be pretty difficult. On the other hand, it can choose to expand its pool of loanable funds, which will require them to acquire as well as to retain their deposits. Therefore, we can see that retail banking is an important part of Singapore's banks.
So then, what are the recent trends in the retail banking industry? Well, we know that digital banking is on the rise, but specifically within digital banking, we see that mobile banking is the fastest growing segment.
Now, with mobile banking as well as internet banking growing so quickly, we can see that consumer banking is likely to be affected the most amongst all departments in the bank. This is further advanced by the fact that Singapore is a highly smart nation with a high penetration rate of smartphones.
So what are the current efforts that the bank actually doing? Well, I already introduced the UOB Mighty app, and when this app was introduced, it is actually the first bank to roll out a contactless payment with no $100 limit. Its app release was actually widely considered a success, but it was introduced into a field where there were already many competitors' apps. So what we know based on studying the apps by the other competitors is that all 3 banks have thoroughly considered the customer's needs, and they all actually serve similar functions.
Now, in recent years, the mobile application has fast becoming a reason for consumers to switch banks due to unsatisfactory applications.
So our objective is to secure UOB's dominance in Asia by capitalizing on the digital banking trend. So what we know based on our situation analysis is that there are 3 key issues. First, how can we differentiate our apps? Next, how can we integrate our mobile platforms to be part of our core business? And finally, how can we expand our mobile platforms in Asia? With this, we have our UOB strategy. U, to utilize our key competencies to differentiate UOB Mighty. O, to orientate branches to promote digital banking. And B, to build on existing markets through digital banking.
And the first step that UOB has to take is to utilize its core competency to differentiate UOB Mighty. And since UOB Mighty is an application used by customers, we first have to consider what our customers are looking for in a mobile application. And we realize there are 3 areas. First of all, value-adding functions. Secondly, easy-to-use interface. And thirdly, reliable execution, which is the app performance.
So what we know about the UOB Mighty app now is actually they are facing some problems. In the case, it is mentioned that there are problems viewing accounts and transferring funds. What we know is that app users will abandon an app if the app fails them more than twice. So also we know that 84% of users will actually switch to another bank if that bank can provide them better digital services.
So we have to make UOB Mighty irreplaceable, but how do we do that? It's through recognizing UOB's core competency. So the first competency that we recognize is actually UOB's success in incorporating the lifestyle dimension into consumers' banking needs. So first of all, UOB has a very strong card portfolio that caters to almost every lifestyle, such as UOB Ladies Card because men just don't get it. And also, by recognizing that Singaporeans love to travel and food, which occupies about 40% of the household expenditure, UOB tackles them with UOB Travel Smart app, as well as Dine with UOB Mighty.
The next core competency that UOB has is in the housing mortgage loans. So what we know is because customers are actually attracted to the very attractive packages that we have. For example, only 1.68% for a period of about 2 years.
So first of all, we have to dig deeper to realize that what are consumers looking for in a digital banking mobile application. So we realize that consumers are actually attracted to a digital banking mobile application if it offers a competitive monetary incentive, such as competitive discount rate or loyalty program. And secondly, we realize for an app to actually succeed is to actually implement some social elements into the application. About 29.44% of respondents actually responded that because their friends and families are using the application as well, that's why I'm using the application. So we're actually thinking of incorporating this shared experience into UOB Mighty.
So what we propose is a tiered discount system specific for users who have both our Dine and Pay services. So what happens is that we intend to have a tier system, so you'll get more discounts as more users join in. So this would actually encourage non-users to sign up for the app just so that the group can enjoy better benefits.
And also, as we recognize the second key competency of UOB, which is its strong mortgage loan portfolio. And we realize that because Singapore is expecting an increasing population and we expect further growth in this housing demand, we realize we can actually utilize these mortgage loan benefits into the UOB Mighty application. And how do we digitalize this whole process is to put the mortgage loan option into the loan category of UOB Mighty. And through that, instead of going to the bank to submit physical documents for mortgage loan, they can simplify the whole process by actually just use their phone and scan the documents and send it through the application, as well as the applicants can actually track their applications to actually make this whole process more beneficial for them. And also that by digitizing this whole process, we realize that we can capture these home buyers early.
Our next strategy will be to orientate branches to facilitate omni-channel services. So we see that there's a huge potential for UOB Mighty's app to be integrated into its core businesses. First, we see that mobile banking is merely a peripheral portion of local banks' services. So next, we also see that average queue times at banks today is at 5.12 minutes, which consists of 4 minutes of queue time and over 1 minute of transaction time. Next, UOB also sees increasing staff costs, with staff costs going up by 7% from 2014 to 2015.
We see a potential in this area by incorporating UOB Mighty into the core banking system. It can achieve two purposes. First of all, is to shorten the transaction time, as well as secondly, is to cut down the manpower needed in each branch.
Next, are traditional banks still a necessity in today's world? We see that banks are met with huge cost advantages if they convert to mobile banking. We see that mobile banking is currently, cost per transaction for mobile banking is currently 53 times lower than compared to retail branch services.
Despite that, we still see the necessity of a branch in the banking system because, as we can see from this diagram, there are actually 6 categories of customers in the major Asian banks, and 12% of them are actually remote transactors. Basically, they prefer human interaction in their banking transactions. So that's why branch is still necessary in a banking system if they can be further modified.
Hence, in order to integrate mobile and retail branches, we will have to reimagine branch store layout. So the current model in UOB branches is more of a prescriptive model, where when the customer first walks into the store, he is greeted by a front counter who will then divert him to his correct counter for his required services.
But we want to make the whole system more interactive. And how can we do that? It's actually through revolutionizing the whole branch layout to be more welcoming, just like a showroom. And most importantly, we have to educate the customers on how to use the digital application offered by UOB, especially the UOB Mighty.
And we see our integrative solution as as a win-win solution to both UOB and customers. For UOB, we see decrease in labor costs, and for the customers, reduced waiting times, which will enhance their customer experience, and this will mean a higher customer retention for UOB. So we also found that customers that are delighted are 42 times more likely to retain loyalty to a retail setting. So this is extremely important in today's saturated local banking industry.
Now, with the app already utilized to defend our local market, let us look further to build beyond existing markets through our mobile application. Now, we have considered 4 markets for this particular example, with Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, as well as Cambodia. And we have specified and actually localized localized Indonesia as well as Philippines as the ones that we wish to enter due to the high mobile penetration rate and rapidly growing GDP. Moving on, we also asked the question, why then are these people not in banks at this point in time? Well, they have actually answered by saying that banks simply have too high a minimum balance at this point in time. And another one worth noting is the fact that many find that banks are too far away from them. How then can we actually capitalize on this market? Well, that is simply through digital banking. As you can see, in the geographical regions of even Indonesia as well as Philippines, 56% and 46% are actually currently still in rural areas. And this means that the GDP density of these areas are currently not worth it to set up branches, not worthy to even set up branches in these places. Now moving on, how then can we actually move on, how then actually can we roll out this system? This is through the agents as our intermediaries. Agents are simply the people that facilitate banking for people living in rural areas, therefore not necessitating the bank to set up a branch in the area. Now how does this work? Is that the agent will actually be the one that transacts the cash for this person and settles the account as well as the due considerations for this person.
Next, we can also offer attractive online services to convert people to online banking. So, like we can offer good savings discounts saving interest rates at 5 basis points higher than the best offer in the market. And due to the high propensity of saving in our markets, we see that it's a very strong incentivizer when interest rates are increased.
Now, how do we justify our entry into these markets? It's basically by the fact that we are utilizing the UOB-NUS application. This application will be updated and suited specifically for these countries to ensure that people there are able to use it as well. Now, this will actually also increase our revenue by going into a country with lower operating expenditure as well as capital expenditure. At the same time, we will also increase our loan books by ensuring that people over there have open access to our loan features. And in these countries, particularly in nature, will be microfinancing.
So here's the timeline and risk and mitigations for our strategies. For all three strategies, basically what we're doing here is that there's two phases to every of them. First, the design stage, where we intend to develop all the technology that's necessary for us to use the systems. So these are all represented in the dark blue arrow. And the light blue one represents the actual launch of all the propositions that we are making here. With regard to orientating the branches to promote digital banking, we see that it would take approximately 1 year for us to prepare, to find all the technology necessary to revolutionize store layout before actually unleashing it towards the end of 2017. So I just want to highlight for the risk and mitigations, the last strategy. What we see here is that we feel that to build on existing markets through digital banking would be more risky for us. And the risk here is that there will be increased number of non-performing loans. So how do we intend to mitigate this risk? We intend to go very rigorous in the way we screen them for their creditworthiness before we actually sign up with them.
Now let us look at the financial impact of our initiatives. First and foremost, this is actually a research done by McKinsey, and it showed that increasing a revenue through our new applications such as UOB Dining will increase our revenue by 5%. Now, including a new feature such as people being able to take home loans through applications will increase revenue by 10%. The optimization as well as the omni-channel approach will increase profits by 30%. This will bring our total increase by about 45%. Failing to do so, we could also see a downside when other banks hop onto these digital initiatives while UOB does not. This can be seen at a total of about 35% of profit. Moving on to our financials, we can see that the interest income here, we have actually projected it to increase over time due to the increased microfinancing loans that we can give.
So with that, we are confident that our UOB strategy will help us achieve and solve our key issues. It will help us to differentiate our app. It will help us to integrate mobile platforms to be part of our core business. And it will help us to expand our mobile platforms in Asia. Overall, helping us to achieve our goal to establish UOB's dominance in Asia by capitalizing on digital banking trends. Thank you.
It's okay. You can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Sir.
First question, do you have UOB products? You have a card? You have a bank account with UOB?
I don't, but my dad does.
Good start. I like your use of UOB to position it, but just a point. Most corporate logos are sacrosanct. You cannot cut out U with the logo, O with the logo. That's one thing. But the rest of the presentation was good. I like the use of financials, the fact that you understood the business, mortgage and all. But I'm just talking as I see it. As I would see that there is a lot of solutions. The first three teams, they had expand, they have engaged, they have enhanced, but I don't see that coming out as strongly. No use of big data, location, segmentation type thing. What do you say to that?
So actually, based on our research on the apps, we find that it is very easy for apps to replicate the success of other people's apps. So based on the study of all the competitors' apps, we find that, they have really thoroughly considered all the consumer needs. And they really have functions that actually suit those needs. So how can we actually set ourselves apart from them? That's why we turn to our core competencies. Because we feel that those are the areas where our competitors cannot compete with us. They cannot replicate our success in those areas, which is why we focus on those areas. We can go into all this very fanciful stuff, but it's easily replicated. So why don't we let them do it first, and then we replicate their success, which is what UOB-Mighty is all about. Coming in a very strong start, so that's why we focus, we go back to our core values, and the whole concept of the values of the company.
To add on to that, we actually consider a different approach to this. So while many have considered like big data and research as important factors, we actually came from an angle more of how do we acquire as well as retain our customers. Therefore, we actually came up with these two, the first two solutions, whereby we want to retain our local customers. And we actually decided that, with the application already out in place, how then can the bank actually optimize its cost? And how can we actually optimize its cost? Actually through this omni-channel approach, basically as much as possible trying to reduce the manpower that's actually required at the bank branches. Now in doing so, we can also see increased satisfaction from customers. And this, I believe, it's something intangible that we cannot feel, we can't exactly gauge for customers, but I think it's actually a very important factor. If my dad can actually reduce his banking transaction time by not approaching a bank and actually doing it through an application because it's so intuitive, I'm sure that he will definitely stick to the bank.
Thank you for your question.
Okay, thank you, and congratulations, because you have been considering the financial aspect of the thing, which is good and important, I think. I've just one question. You have worked a lot on how to improve basically the whole operation efficiency to create cost competitiveness. What does that bring to the customer?
Well, as I mentioned earlier,
It brings something to UOB definitely, and this is good.
yes.
But for the customer, why? What does that bring to the customer?
I think the answer would be simplicity. Because in a sense, like what we found is that if you do banking through branches and the traditional methods, it's actually more costly than the mobile application side. So for the bank side, it is clear that there are benefits for us. So what we're trying to propose in the terms of the consumer is how simple it is for them in this new platform, how easy it is to make a transaction. So that is the first benefit that the customer will actually get. And we believe that this will actually convince them to stick to that.
And also we cannot forget that the target group, we are not just targeting young people, but also we have senior citizens as well, like the more senior people. And this simplicity as well as convenience will definitely bring benefits to them.
Congratulations on your presentations now. I was captured by your presentation. I just got 2 points to make. I guess the first point is, going by the 4 presentations, it would appear that for me, like in your case, your objective is quite broad. Basically, is to establish UOB's dominance in Asia. So therefore, I think a lot of what is being said is about maybe mid to long-term strategies. Whereas based on the case extract that has been provided to us, I think I'm not sure if everybody's answering the same question. It says, how can UOB Mighty overcome these hurdles to continuously create and maintain differential advantages and achieve high customer acquisition and usage in this highly competitive environment? So it's a lot of it is the environment that was painted to us is about Singapore, right? So perhaps that's why the differences in strategies that's been proposed. That's point number one. Point number two would be that strategy is not just about, in my view, about plans, and it's also about given limited resources, where should we prioritize our efforts? And, yeah. So I'm not sure at this stage, whether there's any priority that's been identified. So and it's also a function of timeline. So if we have looking at next 3 years, where would our priorities be, and why? Yeah, maybe do you have anything to respond to that?
Maybe I can answer the question for you. Okay, so basically, what happens is that our presentation is actually sequential. So, I mean, how can we first use our application to actually maintain our customer base as well as acquire new ones in Singapore? That is actually through the dining experience. And we have found out that, a social experience through dining will actually encourage people, or rather, like, for example, if let's say a friend of mine is having a UOB card and having dinner, and I don't have a UOB card, so our discounts that we provide through group dinings will actually, in a sense, bring about an acquisition of customers. And on top of that, we also have our home loans. And these home loans are something special to UOB. It's a core competency of this bank. And how can we make it easier than for customers to take these home loans? It's actually through the application, through how people use the applications to actually ease the way that they transact these home loans. And we feel that, I mean, like, these are the things that people look out for, when selecting a bank. How can I transact more easily, and how can I benefit from the efficiency of the bank? And then we move on further into the omni-channel approach. So basically, we want to make the application itself a core part of the business. This means that we will definitely be focusing on improving the amount of transactions that are taking place through the application, thereby reducing the need for an established branch. In this case, we also intend to educate the people how they can actually use these applications to further their transactions, or to do simple transactions that do not require face-to-face approach. And this will definitely save the bank a lot of time and a lot of manpower. Yeah, so that's how we approach the acquisition part of it. And then from there, having stabilized the base, we are then proposing steps where the bank can actually, in the long term, acquire new markets in Asia itself. Yes.
Thank you for your question. I would just like to add on a little bit on the first questions that you have asked. So in a sense, yes, when we read the case, we did discuss among ourselves regarding the direction that we take. Yeah. So and this was actually what we figured out, because we felt that if we just focus on the app, we cannot only get users, but like my friend mentioned, if we look outside the app, we can actually increase the usage as well.
When you look at this 2 points, one, like what Vincent mentioned, because I think the topic is really how do you enhance Mighty as a product, right? And the reason why Mighty came out is all about connectivity and frequency. And through frequency, you bring your customer back into, and they may not even be customer in. Through frequency, you engage them. I didn't get a lot of that. And then you jump into housing loan. Housing loan, yes, is a very core competency part of the organization. But there are definitely less people buying house per day than more people going into Mighty a day. So as a percentage, it's huge. But in terms of hit rate, you're not going to get in. In fact, all these apps is all about counts and frequency. I mean, if you think if Facebook only have one hit, you are going in once a month, it will not be worth its value. So how do you keep bringing them back? And in the process, bring possible revenue and engagement. So far, all this thing is just engagement. We have not even talked about monetizing yet, because that's another conversation altogether. So I thought that didn't really come out. rather than the big strategy of the bank that was coming down.
Yeah. Thank you.